Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, today we're looking at Psalm 127, verse 2. We started Psalm 127 yesterday. We are still in the Ascent Psalms. This is the 8th step in the Ascent Psalms, and this is a Psalm of Solomon, a song for ascent. And so this, as I've said before, this is the travelogue. This is their little traveling hymn book that they're singing out of as they come up to the city to worship the Lord. Some have said that this is a set of songs that they would sing as they walked up the 15 steps into the temple. So there were 15 steps going up into the temple. On each step they would stop and they would sing one of these songs, of course in order, beginning with 1 and going to 15. Today we're going to look at verse 2. Now yesterday we saw something about vanity and human labor as opposed to the Lord's performance of something. So we talked about the Lord building the house and the Lord keeping the city. And then we looked at examples like the man who built his house on the sand. And we looked at examples like the men who kept the walls of Jericho, how vain that was, how vain it is to build your house on the sand rather than on the rock of God's word, and how vain it is for the men in Genesis chapter 11 to try to build a tower to reach up into heaven. God wasn't in that. He looked down at them and he wondered about them. Well, today it gets a little more personal. Notice, because we're not talking about those people there, the laborers, those who labor to build the house, or those who labor to build the city or keep the city. Now we're talking about you. He goes from them to you. It is vain for you, he says there in verse 2. Let me read that for you. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep. So the Lord's going to give sleep whether you labor or not. It just depends. You see, that's the thing here in verse 2 that we don't have. We don't have the Lord mentioned. If the Lord doesn't build the house, we could say, if the Lord doesn't provide for you, it's vain for you to rise up early and to stay up late. If the Lord doesn't provide. Because what are you doing when you rise up early and you stay up late? Well, you're trying to work yourself into some prosperity, aren't you? Yeah. And oh my goodness, do we do that? We are so bound on work. We want to work. Work is a great cause, and it's a great good for men to work. Men need labor. But friends, what we usually do, is we transfer that idea of the goodness of labor and of our participation in something onto salvation. And we say, well, I must labor for my salvation. I've got to do some things. There must be a works righteousness because that's just the way we feel geared. We feel geared to do something, to stay up late, to get up early, whatever it might be. We have all kinds of little gadgets and tricks that we try to add to salvation, don't we? To make us feel like we're participating in it. But friends, unless the Lord calls you to himself, it's vain for you to do those things. He's the one that gives sleep. He's the one that gives rest. You can't do that. You can't do it for yourself. Only the Lord can do it. It's only by his grace. It's only from his mercy. That's the only way. The Lord does that work. He's the one that calls. He's the one that elects. He's the one that redeems. We try to do it ourselves, and it's, as the psalmist says here in verse 2, it's vain. It's vain for you to try to do this on your own. The Lord's the one who gives sleep. To his beloved, he gives us rest. And he gives us rest from our labors when we try to purchase salvation with our good works. It never works. It never has, because the Lord's not in it. And it's vain to try to do it. Well, join me tomorrow. We'll look at verse 3 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, Check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.